Hi. Hola.
Hi, here's Mr. Dozy.
This is Michael Bradley.
Hey, I'm Memphis.
Hey.
Hola. Hello.
I'm here with soccer.com.
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 And I'm talking with my friends soccer.com.
See you soon.
Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas X 16.2 in the Mercury pack colorway. Now, as you guys can see, this looks a lot like the X 16.1, which is the high-end model above it at $200, and then above that, at the $300 price point, you have the X 16 Plus Pure Chaos, where this guy, the X 16.2, retails for $130. So not super cheap, but obviously a lot less expensive than the models above it. And despite looking a lot like the X 16.1, it does have its fair share of differences that we're going to be talking about in today's video, that despite how they might look, they are fairly different shoes in terms of feel and overall performance. So we're going to be talking about all the tech specs and performance features in today's video. We're going to go over the weight of the shoe as well as how they fit and feel on feet, and essentially cover everything that you need to know about the X 16.2 and really whether or not it's worth the $130 price tag that Adidas is asking. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. And on that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $130 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's talk tech specs and performance features with the Adidas X 16.2. Now, again, it looks very, very similar to this shoe right here, the model above it, the X 16.1, that retails for $70 more. Now, despite them looking very, very similar, there's some pretty significant differences between these two shoes that I'm about to point out. Now, both of these shoes are listed as having a Tech Fit upper, and for the most part, the material, the synthetic that you find, the silver area, is the same material, but it's just thicker and not quite as nice on the X 16.2. So they basically could have implemented the same upper, but chose to make it, like I said, not quite as premium. It's flexible, it's soft, it's comfortable against your foot, but it doesn't have the thin touch that I think you might expect to get from a shoe like this. And the X 16.1 isn't all that thin as it is. The X 16.2 is that much thicker and just has a more padded feel to it overall. They have it listed as a Tech Fit upper, but the Tech Fit part is mainly this orange area that you see, whereas the upper is obviously a standard synthetic material that, like I said, they don't really give any details on as to what specifically it is with the X 16.2, the X 16.1, or even the X 16 Plus for that matter. So, like I said, they're basically the same materials, but it's just thicker on the X 16.2, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like I said, don't buy this shoe expecting them to be very, very thin and to offer more of a barefoot feel. The synthetic though itself, it doesn't necessarily feel cheap, doesn't feel super premium either. I wasn't really crazy about the X 16.1 synthetic as it is, but this, like I said, just kind of feels like a step down, if you will, in comparison to the X 16.1, which I guess it should be to a certain extent since it is the first step down shoe. As far as the actual texturing on the upper is concerned, it does have the embossed graphics, as you guys can see, which again, look very, very similar. These are a little bit deeper, again, just due to the upper being a little bit thicker in general. There's some texturing there on the inside, but for the most part doesn't really have any impact on touch in my opinion. You have this kind of awkward seam here on the medial side, just like what you would find on the X 16.1 as well, which is something I'm still a little bit confused by. And the laces run through the middle of the shoe with these kind of loop lace holes made from a nylon material. Now it looks like these would be nylon straps that run from the base of the sole through the liner into the lacing system, but they don't. They're basically just cut off right about here, and they're simply there to act as placeholders for the laces themselves, but they still do serve a very important purpose in the actual lockdown of this shoe. It's not a shoe that's intended to be worn laceless. The laces still do their part in terms of locking your foot and holding it in place. I just wanted to point out that just like the X 16.1, these aren't actually nylon straps that run all the way through. They're simply there to hold the laces to replace what would normally be a lace hole due to the kind of interesting design that they have going here. As far as the Tech Fit collar area is concerned, the shoe is basically a low-cut shoe with some extension pieces. So across the top of the foot here, right down the middle, basically halfway up it starts, you have more of a kind of elasticated neoprene material. I guess that's the best way to put it. Whereas on the X16.1, it's more of a thinner, kind of densely knit material. It does have some elasticated qualities to it. This just feels a little bit more premium than what you get right here. Obviously, this doesn't have the graphic in it. This is a little bit softer, a little bit more stretchy, and again, just not quite as premium, but essentially feels pretty much the same when you're actually wearing the shoe. So that's not something that's a major difference, and honestly not that noticeable a feature in terms of just the feel of the shoe in general. It's just to eliminate some extra bulk and to give the shoe kind of a unique look, which I think they've done successfully with this TechFit system and the new X16 lineup. You do have the S curve at the back of the heel, which is kind of a signature of these new Adidas models, at least in the X line, where basically it curves out a little bit. It's an extended piece, so this part at the very top isn't necessarily sitting against the back of your Achilles. It's kind of taken from the Pure Boost or previous Prime Knit models, the Prime Knit 2.0 from Adidas, for those that remember that particular shoe, just to alleviate any kind of pressure on the back of the heel area. And it's pretty comfortable. It's not like a mid-cut thing like Nike is doing. It fits and feels for the most part like a normal shoe. It's just got a little bit of a different shape at the back, which again is there, in my opinion, mainly just to have the shoe look a little bit more unique in comparison to everything else. As far as the heel liner is concerned, this does not have a synthetic suede. It has more of like a rubberized type material. It almost feels like a balloon, if that makes any sense. It's super, super grippy to the point where it's almost difficult to get your heel out of the shoe, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because once you slide your foot inside, your heel is locked in place really nicely. There's plenty of padding back here as well, so comfort is not an issue whatsoever. And again, it fits pretty well in the heel area, so I can't really complain about anything there at all. As far as the insole goes, it's fully removable. It features a mesh liner on top, and it's the same black foam that you find on the X16.1 with just a little bit of a different pattern within the foam itself, but for the most part, exactly the same as what you will find on the higher end model. And then as you look at the back of the shoe, you'll notice that you don't have an external heel counter like you do on the X16.1. Instead, it's internal on the 16.2, and that's because the 16.2 does not have a sprint frame construction. So the sprint frame is really what makes the X16.1 so light, whereas the 16.2 does not have that. It has the internal heel counter with a thicker, much heavier, kind of more traditional TPU plastic construction for the sole plate. That honestly isn't the greatest. It has that kind of awkward flex point like we've seen from many Adidas takedown models. They've basically kind of just reverted back to it with the X16.2. We didn't necessarily have it on the X15.2, but that was a shoe with its own issues. So not crazy about this particular sole plate. It has a huge impact on the final weight of the shoe, which you guys will see in just a second. So these are not nearly as light as the model above it. And the sole plate, like I said, isn't the greatest either in terms of the flex points. It's stiff basically from here to here, from the heel to the middle of the forefoot, and then this front part has the ability to flex, where everything else, like I said, is pretty rigid and lacks flexibility in general, which is a good or bad thing depending on what you like. And then of course the stud pattern, which is FG-AG, same thing you're going to find across the entire X16 lineup. Doesn't change with the takedown models, and it performs pretty well. It's definitely more of a firm ground stud pattern in my opinion, but you can use it safely on artificial grass. It's the same layout we've seen from Adidas for several years now, and pretty much the same layout you're going to find on all of their models at the moment, just with some more uniquely shaped studs that ultimately don't have that big of an impact on the overall kind of performance and different characteristics of this stud pattern in comparison to everything else the brand has on offer. So if you've worn this layout of Adidas stud pattern in the past, while this is technically different than every other one due to the difference in the shape of the studs, the overall feel and performance is pretty much the same as what you've used. So nothing too brand new in regards to the stud pattern itself. It gets the job done. Not too many people complain about it, and I really didn't have any issues with it either. So that's pretty much it as far as tech specs and performance features when it comes to the X16.2. Again, despite looking very, very similar to the X16.1, they're actually very easy to mix up. There are some pretty big differences between the two models. When it comes to weight, despite the X16.2 looking almost identical to the X16.1, the difference in weight is very significant. So I'm going to weigh both the X16.1 that I have right here with black laces and the X16.2 in real time using this scale side by side so we can see exactly what the difference is. So keep in mind these are both the same size 9 US and in brand new condition. So this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the X16.1 and its sprint frame sole plate. Throw it on the scale, and you can see it weighs in at 7.55 ounces, the equivalent of 214 grams, which is relatively lightweight. So we'll change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the X16.2, the takedown model below it, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.9 ounces, the equivalent of 280 grams. So you're talking about a weight difference of about 2.5 ounces with, like I said, the X16.1 being significantly lighter. So that for me is one of the major differences between these two shoes. I know I always stress that weight isn't the most important thing, but if you are interested in this type of design, they share their similarities, yes, but the difference in weight is definitely noticeable because it is so significant. And the reasoning for that is the sole plate. The sprint frame is just a lot lighter than what they've put here on the X16.2. So if you don't mind having something that weighs a little bit closer to 10 ounces, then the X16.2 shouldn't be a problem for you. But if you do want that lighter feel, it definitely is worth it to spend the extra $70 and get the X16.1. As far as aesthetics go, I personally don't mind the X16 line in general. The X16.1 I thought is a pretty cool looking shoe, and the X16.2 for the most part looks almost identical, minus the heel counter, the texturing in the Adidas logo, and a little bit of extra detail within the orange Tech Fit collar. But other than that, they're really, really hard to tell apart, especially from a distance. So in terms of this shoe being a takedown model looking cheap, it doesn't really look cheap. It looks, for the most part, almost identical to the top end model above it. With that being said, this is of course part of the Mercury pack as well. So it does feature that very interesting kind of silver color to the upper that has this kind of swirly pattern within it. As you guys can see, the embossed graphics or the embossed areas through the entire upper give it a little bit of texture as well, which I think looks pretty cool. You can see you have the X logo and the Tech Fit branding here on the medial side of the heel. The laces on this particular pair are gray with little black lines running through it. You have the gray in the actual nylon lace loops, the orange in the Tech Fit collar, and then the sole plate is kind of like a gray color with the bright orange in the studs. So all in all, interesting shoe, interesting colorway. Let me know what you guys think of these down below in the comment section. Do you like how they look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. Alright, so here is a look at the X16.2s on feet. On my left foot I have the stock gray laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot I have a pair of gray camo SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You can find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, for the most part they don't feel that much different in comparison to the X16.1. Touch on the ball is different, yes, because of the slightly thicker synthetic material, but the overall feel on your feet isn't, like I said, that much different from the higher end model. The general shape of the shoe is the same. The flexibility from the sole plate, like I said, is not quite as good as the sprint frame sole plate on the X16.1, but the general feel and comfort of the shoe is pretty much on par and really is pretty good. No real complaints here. The synthetic material has some good flexibility to it. It wears in nicely as you get some playing time in them. The lockdown in the heel is very, very good. The heel liner they've implemented is very, very grippy on your heel and your socks, which almost makes it a little bit too difficult to put them on, but once they're on, like I said, your heel is locked in place really, really nicely, so heel slippage is not an issue like it was on the X15.2. This is a completely different shoe in pretty much every single way. As far as the overall fit of the shoe is concerned, width-wise, it's not necessarily a super tight fitting shoe, but it is still a synthetic material. It'll stretch a little bit, but not too much. They'll fit most people, that's for sure, as long as you don't mind something that does have more of a snug fit overall, but it's not super wide. So if you have really, really wide feet, maybe not the best option for you, but like I said, they will be suitable for most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. Alright guys, that is it for my review of the Adidas X16.2 in the Mercury Pack colorway. At $130, do I think this is a particularly good option? Not really, but I don't think this is a bad shoe by any means. Maybe down the line, if you can pick these up on sale and you just like the design of the new X16 line in general, then yeah, maybe it's a good buy. But at full retail, $130, I really feel like there are better options out there when you're talking about straight up quality as well as performance. So expect to see more content on this shoe as well as the rest of the X16 line very, very soon on the channel. If you guys are interested in more info right now, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself. That'll give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person. And of course, you also find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $130 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.